So we're starting with the big questions. For me, for example, to have a personalized meditation experience with my Headspace app, just with my emotional state, would be epic.
I mean, even looking at all the craziness, what's happened in 2020, how far we've come in a short period of time, how we scale that in 2021 is really going to be a cool thing to be a part of and experience. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it. Welcome to the last IDUN Technologies podcast of 2020. In these times of COVID, we are practicing safe office measures. However, since we're at a reasonable distance from one another, we can remove our masks and talk Who Natua.
Very good.
My name is Mark Malikovic. I'm an application engineer by IDUN Technologies, and I'm joined today by Simon Bachmann.
Hello, Mark. Hello, how are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Very good. Excited to talk about our very interesting year.
So, what has 2020 meant for IDUN?
Wow. So we're starting with the big questions. That's very good. I think 2020 was kind of a reality check in the good and the bad, I guess, as for many others as well. I think kind of this how you say, the phase with the red glasses where everything looks nice.
Everything was rosy.
Yeah, exactly. So this has definitely stopped. I remember when we started with fundraising in February, we were extremely optimistic. Everything was going well. When you looked at the annual reports, everything was just growing. And then COVID came, as everybody obviously knows. And then it was really interesting to see how everything changed so fast. And, you always say that when you're doing your own startup, you have to become familiar and confident and comfortable with uncertainty. And I always thought that I am that, but it just kind of developed into a completely different level this year. So that was interesting for me as a personal experience. I also guess for the whole company and for every employee in some form or another. Yeah. So reality check. But it also showed that if you're building something great where people believe in and they're interested in, that it still has its place. And that was also nice to see.
Because when you're going in, I think when you're first getting seed funding as a startup, you can do that more on a dream scale. As long as you communicate the dream to investors, maybe you can, let's say, get the money easier. And when you start going further along in funding round, you have to show what we would call results, as I understand. Show that you hopefully have a market fit, that you understand who the customers are, what your product is, what you want to deliver to them.
Yeah.
So as we're going through this transitionary phase with IDUN, how do you think things are going?
This transitionary phase was kind of, I think, the second or the third time we had to go through as a company, because when we started as a component supplier, building electrodes and then selling them, I remember when we tried to go for our first venture capital round, the feedback was like, it's just a component business. This is not a VC case. So what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. And that was in, I think, early 19. And then when we understood that we want to go more into a full stack strategy and do more electronics and software, because this is also where the value is, then we had to kind of start over again. And I remember this feedback from an investor that said, are you aware that with this decision, you're actually just way earlier than what you would have been if you would just go for this component business? And that's rang kind of a bell, because we saw many times in our journey that because we have ambitious goals, and I guess that's a good thing, it also means that we're still relatively early on our track. Yeah. And to answer your question, like we have to show results. This is, I guess, for all startups, but for us especially, always hard to balance the big dreams with tangible results. Yeah. And this is also the reason why we're currently trying to push one of our products into the market still as kind of a component deal, because we want to show to the market, to the investors, that people are willing to spend money on it, that it's not just dreams.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we still want to portray this big vision of internet, of humans, and this empathic technology where you have to be a bit of a dreamer to see the full potential of it.
Well, in that phase, I mean, a lot of companies that are going towards neurotechnology now, I think there's between the decrease in cost of hardware, better sensors, the components come together whereby a lot of different companies can build neurotechnology products. So for you, thinking a bit about the future and how do you imagine IDUN fitting into this ecosystem?
I think what we are seeing really strongly in 2020, and I guess much more even in 2021, will be that tech players will become kind of health players as well, with Apple and other big brands increasingly becoming interested in putting sensors in day-to-day consumer products. So what I'm looking forward to personally is sensors in headphones, in hearables. I just got a Philips headphone 2 days ago with integrated heart rate. Haven't tried it out yet. Really interested to see that.
Yeah.
So I think our building block that we will bring into that ecosystem is enabling large players who already have the channels and the audience and the customers to empower their users to bring really what they need on an emotional and mental base, what they need together with the content, with the ecosystem, like kind of this matchmaking. And I think this is a really kind of niche expertise, like bringing the materials, the electronics, and this emotional classification into it. And this is where I see our core value, like on the database and on the algorithms that understands, hey, this is how a person feels. And also, if this person who feels like that way is consuming this and this content, the person will then feel in another way or in an improved way. This is where I see as a company our value.
So like what problem are we solving?
Good question. Always the startup pitch question, right? I think there are a few aspects to it. One is that I guess I'm sounding like my dad or even my grandpa when I'm saying that, but technology has become very complicated. There's infinite things to look at, movies, music, videos. So the selection is a tricky thing. But this is more like a symptom of what is underlying. And I think this is that life, especially in these COVID times as well, is challenging. The workload is high, the pressure is high, the stress is high. And what I would love to see is that our technology could help people deal better with their tricky situation, with their emotions. Like, for example, after a stressful day of work, coming home and being able to relax. And that is a very simple but also very complicated goal at the same time, I think.
Yeah, technology fatigue. I mean, for a lot of people, being on Zoom calls for maybe 2 hours, maybe 6 or 8 hours per day. Yeah. I mean, it creates a sort of necessitated a rapid change towards the home office. And I think what that means for a lot of people, it's
a bit undefined. When you go from working in an office environment, it can be a very focused environment. You can get a lot done. Other people are working in an open office environment, and they feel like they're confused all the time because someone is asking something they don't have time to sit down and focus. And so we went from like this open office architecture in some cases to now having to adapt our homes to those environments.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how things change over the next year, depending on COVID, because it's also like this opportunity area whereby we can help to define actually how you can interact with a highly technologically connected environment. So I'm wondering what's going to happen over, let's say, the next year, but also 5 to 10 years with neurotech, and like really integrating into people's lives.
Yeah, like everybody thinks that it will become like mass market and really something ready to use in the day-to-day. But
that's what they said about VR 5 years ago.
Very true. But I'm curious to see in what specific application will that happen. So what I am really excited about is the idea that you could, for example, do work cycle optimization, like your week. And so maybe you hate the 9 a.m. meeting, or maybe you hate the 5 p.m. meeting, depending on your circadian rhythm and whatever is happening.
Yeah.
And imagine having a tool based on your emotional state, which is kind of booking in a 5-minute coffee break with your best friend who you haven't talked to in a few weeks, or it's recognizing when you normally need a break in your day. And I know this sounds kind of trivial, but let's be honest with ourselves. Do we actually, when we would need to say, okay, let's take a 10-minute break and let's go for a walk? No, most of the time we actually don't. And especially when we're in the home office, it's so weird to see that people are working even more when they're at home. That's something that I've read and heard so many times. Like people on average, they work 30 to 60 minutes more every day because they don't have the daily commute. So things haven't really developed for the better, I think, with the home office and the workload. Also, like if you have a partner and you're working in the same room.
Or kids.
Or kids, yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the biggest pain points I hear from a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in the beginning, it's kind of nice that you're a bit closer with your kids, but then when it comes to work, I guess it's quite challenging. So I would love to see this, our tools, which actually should help us in our daily life, like the Outlook calendar, actually become smart and support you. And think also a bit for you, like, okay, you have 10 meetings in tomorrow. That's not really realistic. So let's take the least important one and just push it for 4 days or to next week. And those things, that would actually be nice, just based on how you're feeling.
Yeah, it also then brings up the necessity for interoperability between different applications. I mean, for a long time, we've been talking about products going towards, the API being the product, the access to functions that you can then use to build new product experiences as being the product that people can build and scale with. So I think like maybe 5 years ago, there were some companies that were building a lot of calendar products where they might be pulling in contacts from Facebook, and then the Facebook API changes and it sort of breaks their product in the process. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we can integrate these added functionalities like emotion as a design tool into different products. Because for some people, it might be very clear how that can be used and the value of it. For other people, it can be scary. For other people, they might not know at all really what that means because it's not part of their core business. It's not part of the way that we've been building a calendar for the past 10 or 100 years. Because right now, many calendars are basically the same as an analog calendar. You say, I have this to do, I have that to do, I put it down, and then I hope that it's going to work out, or I try and make things fit my schedule, as opposed to allowing schedules to, let's say, adapt for actually the needs of all the people involved. Because right now we talk about optimizing maybe for one person, but if the group actually has this ability within an organization, then you really start to talk about helping the productivity or the occupational health of like a group or an entire company, not just a single person.
Definitely. I think that's a very good point. Like making solutions for groups and companies. That is, imagine if you have a tool to understand where the fire is kind of starting to burn in your company, like on a personal, on a group, on a team level. So that is, I think, a really valuable tool to prevent difficult situations from happening. And also, again, in these times where pressure sometimes is very high, and when you're in home office, we had this discussion with a hearing aid company, and they're really interested because they also have products for home office settings like headsets and this kind of products. They're interested to understand more about how does a person feel in the home office. And if you can, as a service, sell that to companies, that they have a better understanding on how are the people feeling, who needs more support and who is doing fine. I think that could be really, really powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Gaming is also, it's also one of the topics we're always sometimes thinking about. And like the ability to do emotion recognition from the camera is something that, actually it's been possible for a while. I think even with Skype and using APIs from like Microsoft Azure, you should be able to tap into a basic emotion characterization from people at a meeting. But then there's also the fear of people not realizing that technology exists in the product that they're using. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it starts reacting to them in ways that maybe they didn't realize they signed up for.
Yeah, I think the dual use problem is very large with these kind of technology, these kind of products. Mm-hmm. So in an optimal world, these solutions could really improve our everyday life. Mm-hmm. But there is always also the risk that people are saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sign up for that. So I think it's important for us to always offer a opt-out option. People saying, I don't want to sign up for it. And I guess that sounds easier than actually doing it then.
Well, because these topics are also being fought out a bit in the courts in the US. Like, I think recently, it was in New York, they were bringing an initiative to basically restrict the use of facial recognition technology in public places. Mm-hmm. And I think also in Seattle, I also remember, I think in Detroit, using facial recognition for the police was a topic coming up recently. So I'm also always thinking about this pendulum concept of like you introduce a new technology, there's some societal acceptance, early adopter acceptance, and then things kind of equalize a bit between what we imagine people want, what people actually do want, and what we can create and release into the world. Yeah. And with neurotechnology, like that's really the big question. It's a question of usability. Mm-hmm. So like putting on a device, many devices are either too large or they're just not suited for mobile, like mobility in general. Yeah. So even if we can extract interesting information from algorithms, it's not a device that people can use day to day. Yeah. So I really see the interesting question is the balance between the product usability, the technological features that are coming up, yeah, that people can then automatically use, and then the companies that want to provide services that are based on these new inputs.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Kind of the usability is, even though, as you mentioned in the beginning, things are getting smaller and more affordable, the question is still then, okay, if I use it in my day-to-day, what does it change? And so one thing is like making technology easier to use in the day-to-day life, but the other thing is really also the product experience. And I think there we really need to do our homework, us as a company, but other players in the neurotech space. If we come into the mass market, like what applications are we actually changing? And yeah, at the moment I think it's also still open. We mentioned gaming, we mentioned workplace health, but I guess also like mental health and well-being in general, which is a huge topic, like also connecting it to mindfulness and well-being apps like Headspace. That would be amazing for me, for example, to have a personalized meditation experience with my Headspace app, just with my emotional state would be epic. But we need to be working on that. And this is also my kind of hope and wish for 2021, that the technological maturity that we have achieved in 2020, that we can put that to use. So this is my big goal for next year, finding partners, demonstrating the added value in the application for gaming, for mindfulness. And this is where everything will become even cooler and even more amazing, because then we can also bring partners on board that are using our technology to show to the world how much those applications will be changed. So yeah, that will be cool.
Yeah, I think there's an exciting future to look forward to in 2021. And even looking at all the craziness, what's happened in 2020, how far we've come in a short period of time. How we scale that in 2021 is really going to be a cool thing to be a part of and experience. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Definitely. Yeah, will be interesting. We have ambitious goals. If I look at 2020, we have grown from 5 to 17 people in a year, which obviously also brought its challenges with communication, responsibility. So lots of the normal startup struggles, I guess. But if I look at 2021, having more and more people also from abroad, we have, for whatever reason, a lot of people from Canada joining us. Yeah. And so these challenges, but also showing really traction in the market, and obviously the fundraising as well, we are very ambitious with our Series A goals for summer 2021. So it will be a lot of work, but I think it will also be really exciting and rewarding.
Looking forward to the 1st of January 2021.
Definitely, yes.
So, thanks very much. It was really cool to get a little recap.
Yes.
See where we were, see where we want to go.
Thanks, Mark.
Any last thoughts?
Just that I wish everybody to stay safe and stay healthy, and hopefully they can enjoy a little bit of time off with their loved ones. Not that easy these days. And I think just in general, balancing work and life is an important thing, because when we're fully recovered, then we can also build great new things. So yeah, that's kind of my wish for everybody out there.
So, have fun recharging your batteries, and we'll see you in the 2021.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Ciao.